So basically, the very first thing we want to be able to do when we get into Photoshop is to create a new document. And there are two ways that we can do this when we're in Photoshop. First way to create a new document is just by going to File and clicking New. And when I do that, I see that this new dialog box pops up, and I actually have 8 different options that I can change when I create a new document, and they're right here. The first thing I can change is I can name my document. Okay, so I'm going to call it Test. The second thing I can change is the preset, which if I click the drop down menu here is the preset size.
And what I mean by preset size is that there are a bunch of different options of different sizes that are very commonly used in creating documents in Photoshop. And if you didn't want to have to manually go change your settings, you could choose one of these presets and it would bring up all those settings for you.
So let's say I want my document to be the size of paper. I can click that.
And you'll see that our next options, which deal with the size, the width, and the height, have changed to match the preset size of a regular letter, which is 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches tall. Now for us, measuring in inches is really easy, but a lot of the time designers will design in what's called pixels. And if you click the inches drop-down menu, you're going to see that you have all these different points of measurement to set your page size on. And like I said, pixels is very commonly used in graphic design. And you'll see that if I change between these, so 8.5 inches, and I go to pixels, this would actually be the amount in pixels. So some of our projects will deviate from the regular measurement of using inches, and we might use pixels. And some of our projects will deviate from just a regular letter preset size. If that's the case, you can always just choose your unit of measurement. We're going to go ahead with inches, and then you can type in your own width and height. And notice when I start typing those in, it will go from US paper and it'll automatically change to custom. So right now we're only going to do a 5x5 page, and as I type in a new width and a new height, notice that preset did change to custom.
My sixth option is to change my resolution. And for those of you who don't know what resolution is, that is how clear our picture is going to show up. Now, a normal resolution for printing something is at about 300 pixels per inch. And if you are wanting to just do an image for like the internet, then 72 is perfectly fine for that.
For our purposes, anytime we create a new document, we're going to keep our resolution at 300. That means we're good to go for either needing to print, to put something on the web that may look good, or whatever we may decide to do with our image. So we like to stick with a 300 resolution anytime we start from scratch or create a new document. The seventh option we have to change is what's shown here in color mode. And if you choose this drop-down menu, you're going to see that you have 5 different options for your color mode. The ones we are really going to focus on in graphic design are mainly RGB and CMYK. Sometimes when you bring a picture in from the internet, it may show up as a bitmap or a grayscale, in which case we will have to change the image mode, and that's easy enough to do. But when we start out, we're either going to set it as an RGB or CMYK. So let's look at the difference between these two color modes. On the left, we have RGB, which you can see stands for red, green, and blue. It takes those original colors and they add together to create many, many different colors. The main thing RGB is used in is a monitor or a display. So your TV or your computer monitor are done in RGB. CMYK is made up of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which is actually our K, as black ends with K. And unlike RGB, these colors are put together and they actually subtract the difference to make 100 million different options of other colors. This is how our media is printed, and this is how a printer reads color in CMYK. So sometimes it's more important to design in CMYK because that's how it's going to be printed. If I design in RGB and I go and I print it, it might look different when I print it than it looked on the monitor, because the monitor is using RGB and the printer is using CMYK. However, we aren't going to be printing many of our projects. Instead, we'll be viewing them on the screen. So I'm going to say stick with RGB. If you feel like designing in CMYK, great. You are able to convert an RGB document to CMYK if you want to print it. So for right now, I'm going to leave this at RGB. Our final 8th option that we can change is our background color. If we're going to change the background of our document, we can leave it white. We could also drop down and choose background color, which would take whatever swatch color is in the background. Right now I'm in white, so I'd get white regardless. But if I had changed that swatch to a different color, then I could make my background automatically that color. The final option is transparent. So anytime I want a see-through background, I'm going to start with transparent background. For now though, go ahead, keep it at white, and then you'll click OK, and you're going to see your blank new document. And notice it is named test up here, and if I check out my ruler, I am 5 inches wide by 5 inches tall, which is what we created. Our second option for creating a new document is by using the shortcut key. So again, if I go up to File and I look at New, my shortcut key is to the right of whatever command I'm trying to do. And remember, shortcut keys generally start with Control and the first letter of whatever it is you're trying to do. So New starts with the letter N. Lo and behold, the shortcut key for a new document is Control N. But sometimes they like to trip you up. For example, we'll see our Save As does start with Shift. So you can always double check your shortcut key on the right side of the menu here. But if I tried doing Control N, I would get this new dialog box. I'm going to go ahead and just hit Cancel.
So let's say that I created this document here and it's really small and it's also the incorrect resolution. Instead of having to start over and go through the whole new process again, I can change the image size or the resolution by going up to this image menu and choosing image size. And then right here under document size, you'll see that you can type in your own width and height and resolution. So let's say I actually wanted it 300 resolution and I wanted it 8.5 by 11. Now, make sure that if you want to change your image completely, you uncheck this constrain proportions box, because otherwise, if I tried to change this height to 11, notice it's not going to let me do my width. But if I uncheck constrain proportions, now I can choose 8.5 by 11, and I can make my resolution 300. And then when I click OK, I notice that my image size has changed, and if I zoom out, you can see that I now have an 8.5 by 11 paper.
So now we're going to make an edit with our brush tool. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my brush tool. I'm going to change my color to whatever the heck I want. And I'm going to start writing my name. Woohoo! It's awesome. And all of a sudden, I ran out of space to write my A right here. So you know what? I just learned how to make my image a different size. I'm going to try it. I'm going to go to image size. I'm going to make it wider, right? I need to fit my A. So I don't know, maybe I make it 11 inches wide and I click OK and I still don't have any space to write my A. What the heck?
That's because it's just changing the size of this specific image. It's not actually adding more room to our image. Instead, we want to change the canvas size. So if I instead had gone up to image canvas size, I could choose to add more space to really anywhere on my image. And if I want it just to the right, I'm going to actually click the left. So see, now the arrows are pointing just to the right. That means I want my space to go over there. And I want it to now be, 15 by 11. And if I click OK, now it's actually added on white space.
So go ahead and make sure that you've changed your canvas size to be 15 inches wide, and you can keep it at 11 inches tall. And then finish writing your name. Here, my 8 fits. Woohoo! And it doesn't have to look amazing. As you can tell, mine is no Van Gogh. And once you have your name written on your 15 by 11 inch document, we're going to save. And remember, we get 2 versions. So if I do my file save as, make sure I've gone to libraries, documents, graphic design, and the proper week that we're in. We're going to save our Photoshop version. And then we're also going to save our JPEG version. So again, I'll go up to my file, my save as, and I can change this format down to JPEG. I can still name it test, click save, keep my quality at about 9, click OK. So the last basic element to Photoshop that I want to go over is how to open multiple files at one time instead of having to go up to File, Open, and then back up to File, Open, or even Control O, Control O. It takes a little time, and we might have 5 or 6 files that we want to open right away together. So to do that, you do have to get your Open dialog box, whether you do File, Open, or Control O. You're going to get that up, and I'm just going to open a couple pictures. So I'm going to go to Libraries, Pictures.
And I want to open this cat and maybe me and the elephant. So I'm going to single click the first file I want, which is cat. Then if you hold down Control, you can choose multiple files. So the other one I wanted was elephant, and I'm only single clicking and I'm still holding Control. And maybe I want me, and maybe I want this picture of Emily. Then when I'm done, I can let go of Control. I see I have all 4 of these highlighted, and if I click Open, Photoshop is now open, and that takes care of the basics of Photoshop.
So go ahead and submit the JPEG version of your test file with your name that you wrote on it to Schoology.